Many veterans spend months or even years going to doctor's appointments, tracking down medical records, and fighting with the VA to get the disability rating that they deserve. And then all of a sudden, one day, that coveted letter comes in the mail telling you that you have been approved for your disability claim. And obviously, this is a time for celebration. You have worked hard to get these benefits, and the healthcare, the compensation can literally be life-saving for getting you the treatment that you need, giving you the support that you need to afford food and rent. So obviously, this is a huge time for celebration, and getting your VA disability rating is a life-changing event. At the same time, it's not the end of the story. Getting your VA disability rating isn't necessarily the happily ever after. As I have realized, there's a lot of psychological and emotional issues that I've had to work through after getting my VA disability rating. And in today's video, I wanted to share some of those issues that I have faced and how I've tried to work through them, so that hopefully it can help you if you're in a similar situation. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm the part-time economist, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about some of the emotional, psychological issues that I have faced after getting my VA disability rating. Now, to make this all make sense, I want to give you a very, very brief synopsis of how I got to where I am. So I joined the military, and I made it through the vast majority of my military career without any injuries other than just some cuts and scrapes, right? As fate would have it, pretty much right before I got out, I had a really major incident, and I got all of my injuries, well, not all of them, but most of my injuries all at once, right? And so anyway, I got these injuries and I realized, like, okay, things are not like they were before, right? Like, this isn't a little bump. This isn't a little bruise. I need to get treated for this, and I need to put in a claim for this, right? So I did this thing called the BDD. I don't remember exactly what it stands for. Benefits Determination at Discharge, maybe. But basically what it does, you start your VA claim before you leave the military so that when you do get out, you pretty much know right away what your disability rating is going to be. So I got my disability rating, and obviously when I first saw it, I'm like, okay, this is going to help me out so much, right? Because I can get the healthcare I need. I can get help with rent, right? I can afford food, electricity, right? Like, getting the rating in and of itself was amazing because I needed it. But then I also had kind of this conflicting idea in my head, right? Like, I know I have these things that are wrong with me. I know my knees kill me. I know I have concussions, right? I know I have all these things that are not what they should be. I know the VA has said that these things are severe enough that they have classified me as disabled. But at the same time, I was like 28 when I got out of the military, right? And I still saw myself as a soldier, a paratrooper, right? A hard-charging, high-speed NCO that can do anything. And this idea of, I'm going to soldier on, I'm going to push through the pain. For the first 4 or 5 years, that was kind of my motto, right? So I went back to school. I applied for my dream job, and I'm not going to get into all the details, but it was a very physically demanding job with the government, something that I had always wanted to do my entire life. And I was stressed out so much. I had trouble sleeping. My knees would kill me. My back would kill me, like, every single time I would go on shift. And I'm like, this is my dream job. Like, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep doing it. And it got to the point where I'm like, I cannot do this. I had to turn in my resignation. Even after getting assigned to all the specialty teams and units that I wanted to, I had to resign because my body couldn't do it. So I'm like, okay, I get it. That's a really physically demanding job. Let me try something else, right? So I did a part-time job, working retail. Even when I got to set my own schedule, again, this was during the pandemic, so people were hurting for workers, so I had a lot of power as a worker. I'm like, yeah, this is my schedule, this is when I'll work, kind of take it or leave it, right? And I wasn't being rude, but I'm like, this is what I can do. So even with that custom schedule, even working 4 hours per day max, again, my knees would kill me. They would hurt so bad. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get a desk job. This is with Fidelity Investments, right? And I've made a video about how awesome, how amazing they are. They're a great company. even with the desk job, it's too stressful. My knees are killing me. So I'm like, okay, let me go part-time. They literally created an entire part-time program just for me, right? And again, I totally appreciate that. I am incredibly grateful for Fidelity, right? What other company is going to do that? But again, even doing part-time, even doing 20 hours a week at a sit-down desk job, I'm like, I can't do it. And I don't know how it happened, but all of a sudden one day I just came to this realization and I'm like, look, I'm 32 years old and I've tried everything. I've tried physical jobs thinking, hey, if I'm moving around, if I'm part of a team, right, that will keep me moving. It will give me that sense of belonging and I'll be able to do it. That didn't work. Okay, I'll do part-time. That didn't work. Okay, I'll do a desk job. That's also part-time. That didn't work. And yeah, I got to this point where I'm like, I have tried every conceivable type of job and I can't do any of them, right? I can do them for a year or two until the pain becomes so much that I can't. And that was a huge identity crisis for me because I was brought up as a man. I was born as a man. And there's very much this expectation that you're a provider, you're a protector, right? And a lot of your worth, I don't think this is the way it should be, right? But a lot of your worth as a man, society says, comes from your ability to go out, make money, be a provider, right? Be at the top of your field, everything like that. So here I am, 32 years old, saying like, wow, my entire existence, my ability to feed myself, to have a place to live is entirely dependent on getting this veterans benefit, right? If it wasn't for this veterans benefit, I wouldn't be able to afford these things that I need to live. And that's a scary place, right? Because you're always hearing on TV about government shutdowns. You're always hearing about things like that. But even outside of that, even assuming the VA just keeps doing what it's doing, there's no disruptions, thinking about that in terms of relationships, right? Like, what am I going to be able to bring to a partner, right? Almost everyone I date is going to make more money than me, right? And again, I personally don't think that should be an issue, but U.S. culture, again, the man is supposed to be a provider, right? And that was really hard for me. So what has helped me? What are some of the things that I've tried to think about in order to make this a little bit more aligned with where I'm at, right? So there's a couple strategies. The first that helped me was to realize that I have done my best, right? That as soon as I got my disability rating, I didn't just, oh, I've got it, I'm done, right? I'm going to chill for the rest of my life. That I tried every job that I could think of to do something, right? And even now, realizing that I can't do traditional jobs, I still do what I can, right? I make these YouTube videos. Maybe I'll help out a veteran. I'll get a couple bucks from YouTube, right? It's not like life-changing, but it's better than just sitting on my couch watching TV, right? So number one is to realize that I do what I can. But number two, I'm really stuck on this idea of being dependent, right? Again, you're a man. You go out, you forge your own path in life. But I realize that everyone is dependent on something, right? Even the most powerful people, right? The president of the United States is dependent on his security detail, right? Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, again, right? Super rich people. They're dependent on having the infrastructure of the internet for their business to work, right? They're dependent on clean drinking water, right? We are all dependent on something. And the fact that I'm dependent on one thing, whereas other people are dependent on something else, it makes me feel a little bit like, okay, we all depend on each other. We're part of a society. And it makes me not feel guilty, right? That, okay, I'm dependent on the VA. Someone else is dependent on this, right? And kind of tied to that is me realizing that like all of these businesses that are dependent on having a secure operating environment, right? Like, again, Facebook, Google, Amazon, right? it would be very hard for them to operate if the US was currently being invaded, right? And when I think back, I'm like, okay, the reason they're allowed to operate is because they have this safe, secure environment. Now, I did admittedly very, 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 very small part of that, right? But my job as a soldier and some of these other jobs that I was involved with were to provide that security, right? So it's not like I'm freeloading. It's not like I'm just taking something off the system. I kind of front loaded my contribution, if you will, right? What I did enabled all of this other society to work together. And then kind of another thing is realizing that my VA disability isn't, how do I want to say it? It's not like a handout, right? It's not just, oh, here, we're going to give you this for no reason, right? When you join the military, you are presumed, you go through MEPS, right? You're presumed to be more or less fully healthy, right? And the military exposes you to things that they know are damaging, that they know are going to expose you to risk that other people don't have to deal with, right? And your VA benefits are a part of that agreement, right? If we break you, if we take away your capacity to earn, it's our responsibility to make that up, right? And people might say, well, what other job does that, right? What other job does that? Okay, fair enough, but you have to look at it at the other side of the coin. If the VA didn't do these things, would people still sign up for the military knowing that they're going to get these injuries and that they're going to be unable to work, right? I imagine that enlistment rates would be considerably lower. So the idea here is your VA compensation, again, it was part of your agreement. It was part of kind of that implicit contract or bargain, if you will. So those things have really helped me. And then kind of on another level is realizing that a lot of these expectations, again, like man has to go out there, has to provide, has to protect, right? Like I understand kind of the anthropological maybe reasons of why that has traditionally been true. But at the same time, this is 2024 as I'm recording this video, and I can't let kind of my own internalized stereotypes define my worth, right? Yeah, maybe I do date a partner and they make more money than me, right? Okay. Can I still contribute something to their life? Can I, support, encourage them, help them out, cheer them up, right? So that has been helpful as well. Realizing that, yes, society says, again, we live in a capitalist system. Society says he who makes the most money is the greatest, right? Like that's society's belief. That doesn't have to be my belief, right? My belief can be that I did my part to help society function. And even after doing that, I still do what I can. It's not as much as I could have done before I got injured, but it's more than doing nothing, right? And that's all I can do. So I don't know that I have a perfect answer, a perfect solution. Like I said, I'm incredibly grateful that I got the VA benefits, right? Because again, if I didn't have them, I would be in a really rough spot. So getting the VA benefits, fighting for those benefits, again, is important. And I see tons of pages on the internet helping veterans helping veterans to get those benefits. And I think that's fantastic. I think that's amazing. But I also don't think that we should kind of just view that as the end of the story, because especially if you are a younger veteran like me, right? It can be hard to come to terms with like, hey, this disability, I was granted this because I'm limited in some way. And I don't like to think of myself as being limited, but I am, right? And I think there should also be support for people once they do get that rating, like to work through some of those challenges and issues of like, okay, what does this mean? Who am I? What is my worth, right? Like, so I think we should continue to support each other through that. So again, like I said, I don't have all the answers. I'm just sharing my story. I know it was a little bit of a ramble. But I do hope the video was at least helpful in some respect. If you've got any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to leave them down below in the comments. I will try and answer, or hopefully other veterans who maybe have some additional insight will help you out. So as always, I appreciate you watching the video. I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you next time.